What's up guys, it's Zach from TechSource and welcome to my comparison video between the two best budget builds on the channel. In the red corner we got Red Viper, which is a $650 AMD build featuring the R3 1200, and in the blue corner is Blue Lotus, a $730 Intel build featuring the i3 8100. These prices are based on the time of making this video. I did a video on both of these builds, so if you guys want to check out temps, overclocking, gaming performance, the whole 9 yards, I'll drop a link to them down below. Also, I did a full step-by-step detailed build guide on the Intel PC with overclocking the GPU, so if you guys want to build one for yourself or just curious on how to build a PC, then feel free to check that out as well. I'll leave a link below. So the purpose of this video is to do a quick comparison between both of the PCs and figure out which one gives you the most performance and also which one gives you more value. But before we jump into the comparison, I do want to give a huge thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. Storyblocks is the one-stop shop to find amazing content for a fraction of the usual cost. They have access to over 400,000 images, videos, and audio from their member library, and you guys can save up to 60% on marketplace content. Once you download the file, it's yours to keep even after your membership ends, and right now they're giving away 7 free days so you can try it out and access a massive variety of high-resolution photos, vectors, and more from Storyblocks. So make sure to take advantage of this awesome deal by visiting the link below. So kicking off the comparison, let's take a look at the Firestrike benchmark. Blue Lotus managed to take a slight lead over Red Viper, probably because the GPU was able to be overclocked slightly more in the Intel build than the Ryzen build. For rendering times, it was obvious that the Ryzen build would do slightly better because of the higher clock speeds. I did manage to overclock the R3 1200 to 3.8 GHz compared to the locked 3.6 GHz from the 8100. Temps were pretty good for the most part. The GPU did get a bit toasty since we pushed it to its limit, so expect the GPU temperatures in the 80s for both of the builds. However, if you're not going to be overclocking the GPU, then you will be looking at mid 60s to 70s for both graphics cards. In terms of acoustics, the Intel build is noticeably quieter than the Ryzen build without the side panel. However, with the panel on, you can't really tell the difference. When we look at gaming benchmarks between these two PCs, we can clearly see that the Intel build performs better in every single game. The gap between FPS is huge on some games like Overwatch, Doom, and even GTA 5, while the gap kind of narrows down the further we go on the list of games. This gives us a total frame count of 1035 from Intel compared to Ryzen's 849. And if you look at the cost of the build from the time of making this video, the Intel PC actually gives you more frames per dollar than the Ryzen build. Well, what do you know? The Intel build is also the better choice for the long run because of its expandability. The 500 watt power supply can support up to a 1080 and an 8700K with additional 2 SSDs, so you're pretty much covered with any upgrades in between that. The MSI Z370 board supports overclocking, so if you do want to upgrade to an 8600K or even an 8700K, then it will get the job done. You also have the option of adding more storage, whether it's an M.2 drive or additional SSDs. And get this guys, this case even supports a 240mm radiator in the top. On the spec sheet it says that it can only support up to a 154mm fan, but I was actually able to barely fit in the Cooler Master Liquid 240 CPU cooler with two 120mm fans, which is pretty crazy. The fact that you can buy a case like that for only $26 is crazy. In fact, I think the original price is $50 and it keeps going between $50 and $25, but if you guys are planning on building that PC, you might want to snag that case because the price might go up again. So the best budget build that gives you the most value and the most performance is Blue Lotus. However, if you guys are on a tighter budget and only have around $650 to spend, then the Ryzen build sounds more appealing. Now, if you're looking for an editing and streaming PC and you're going with the AMD build, then I do recommend upgrading that CPU to the R5 1600, which is a 6-core, 12-thread processor. And if you're going with the Intel build, I recommend upgrading that CPU to the i5 8400. It's going to cost a little under $100 more, but you are getting a 6-core processor. Unfortunately, it doesn't have hyper-threading, so you're only stuck with 6 physical cores, but for spending around $200, that is a solid 6-core CPU. Also, you guys don't have to spend extra money on a cooler because both of the CPUs come with their stock heatsink. The i5-8400 is a locked CPU, so we can't even overclock it. So buying an aftermarket cooler just doesn't make any sense. I mean, unless you have the money and you want a quieter and cooler CPU, that's up to you. And as far as the R5-1600, I think you guys can even overclock that to 3.9, up to 3.9 gigahertz using the stock heatsink. So I don't recommend spending any extra money on a cooler. What I do recommend though is upgrading your RAM from 8 gigs to 16 gigs if you're going to be doing heavy editing. That's definitely going to help you out with your workflow. But that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, show your support to the channel by dropping a like. And if you didn't, please, I encourage you guys to leave a dislike. You already know how it is. I'll drop a link to all the parts mentioned down below if you guys want to check out the build guide or if you want to check out the performance of both of the PCs. I'll link those below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I love your faces. I will see you in the next one.